Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of Fiction and Feelings. So, today the question is Say You'll Remember Me physical copyworthy? So, I personally would say you'll have to wait till the end of the episode to figure out my answer. I would say You'll Remember Me is a very beautiful book. That might spoil the answer for you. It wasn't just a love story. To me, it covered such heavy topics and themes. Like, we had a theme of love. We had a theme of we had a theme of trauma. We had a theme of like grieving somebody who's still alive but not necessarily completely there. We had a theme of fate versus choice and feeling like if you really have to commit to something super hard if you really want it and what that might look like. We had second chances. We had just a healing story. So I feel like there was so many bittersweet moments. There were so much happy moments. There were sad moments. There were moments of frustration on the part of not that you were frustrated with the characters or frustrated with the book, but frustration with illnesses, frustration with the real life ness of the story. We also got a sense of feeling like right person, wrong type of book going on. But I don't know if I would fully say right person, wrong time since the ending was the ending. But I feel like it did have that element to it because there was such a struggle throughout the book. It didn't feel like if there was a definite ending of happiness. It didn't feel like if it was like a fairy tale. Like while I was reading it, I I kept telling myself, okay, they're gonna make this so easy and they're gonna give you like a wrapped up, all in a bowl, perfect example of what, like just fictional story. But as it was going, as it was happening, I did get the sadness and I didn't, it was like so bittersweet and so sad reading it that I never felt like if it was a fictional story. Like there were aspects of it that of course felt fictional. But what I'm talking about is more so how when her mom has dementia. So you never get a moment of, like how sometimes when people have, not sometimes, but when people have Alzheimer's, sometimes they do have like lucid moments. Um, You never got a lucid moment in this book. You never got a moment of her knowing who her daughter was. You never got a moment of her not struggling with her dementia and not like being ill. You never got a moment of joy where you could be like, oh my goodness, that was so sweet. She called her name. She remembered her name. She remembered what was going on with her. It was just sad. It was, she doesn't remember her daughter. She's never going to remember her daughter. There is no other, and that I loved that aspect of the book because it made it real, it made it not fictional, it made it a story where there are people in this world who are going through that, whose parents have gone through that, whose grandparents have gone through that, and they're still having to grasp the feelings of, I feel this way. I'm never gonna get that moment, or I may never get that moment. And I have to cope with that. I have to deal with that. It's not all magical. It's not always going to be a great moment of happiness. It's not going to always be joy. And at the beginning, when it gives us the like, oh, first date type of energy, and you're oh so happy and you're entrapped in this, oh, this could really work out for them. And then you realize, oh no, she's leaving, like moving away. And it's not as easy as, oh, he could just pick up his stuff and move with her, or she could just not move because obviously her mom is struggling and she wants to spend as long as she can with her mom before her mom passes away. And for him, he will be in so much debt. Like, he can't just pick up and leave. And I loved that aspect of the book, that you literally couldn't just have your happy ending automatically. It wasn't a, oh, we met this one time and happy, 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 happy. And then like some misunderstanding happens and then we don't speak and then we're back together and it's so great. Like they tried with the long distance. He kept flying back and forth. And the finances, the fact that they showed that financial aspect of we're struggling for money. She loses her job. He is trying his best to keep buying plane tickets, and she buys plane tickets when she could buy plane tickets. But really and truly, it's not that easy. They go months without seeing each other sometimes. And it's the ache of, I want to see this person so bad, and I'm trying to keep myself busy so I don't think about this person. Initially, they go the route of, okay, we'll forget about each other, but they couldn't forget about each other. So then they try the long distance, but it's literally killing them. Like, it's making him super sick. He gets super ill at one point because he's just driving himself into the ground to make sure that he can get to her, to be the person that she needs when he's there. And she's just trying her best to be there for her mom, to adapt to the new things. And then you get knocked out with another grief of the loss of a family member. And you're just like, how much more can another person take? But he gets on a plane and it's immediately with her. And I love, as I already said, the financial aspect of it, where they really show it's not as simple as I can see you every weekend. Because I know that there's some books that really make you feel like it's so easy, that as soon as you just pick up for a long weekend, and like long weekends are like every single weekend you could fly out to see this person, but they live pretty far from each other. They can't just drive over. It's not just a couple hours. And I just love that. I love that struggle. It feels so real life. It feels so relatable, even though that's not what I'm going through. It feels like there's so many people who do go through that, and you're rooting for them because you really want to see them flourish. You want to see it happen for them. And even though later on he does have like a miracle moment with his practice, and Hank shows up, the person that was there for him when he was a young child and he didn't even realize that that was him. When you realize that Hank is there and he's just, there to dedicate some of his time and not asking for money in return, you think, oh, well, he's just getting bailed out easily. But no, as you've read the book, as you've gone through the book, like this sigh of relief of, oh, somebody's helping me. And it wasn't even an automatic of Frank being like, hear me, Frank, Hank being like, oh, I'll buy the company from you and you could easily move. Like, he was just there for one day, one every other day or so. Like, it was just like a slight ease. It wasn't a complete, oh, this is perfection and like we're completely out of the waters. At the end, that happens where you're like completely out of the waters, and he is able to open another practice where she is, and other doctors do come and help out in his practice in back in the hometown that he was in, and that was great. But it was like a fairy tale wrap up ending in that aspect, but it didn't feel super fictional. It didn't feel like this was going to be the end, because he had already made a decision. If I'm going to be in debt, I'm going to be in debt. If this company fails, then it fails. Like, that's it. Like, I'm okay with that consequence. And then you get the saving of the other people helping out, but by chance, not necessarily that it was, oh, he just got bailed out of a situation and he didn't have to deal with it. There's also the aspect of abuse in this, and parents being narcissistic, and you having to deal with his parents believing that he's this horrendous child, and they were abusive. Well, his dad was abusive to his mom and to him, and there was so much animal abuse, and it was just like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't really like that. And feeling his pain, feeling like helpless as you reflect on some of his stuff and healing through that and realizing Hank was there and he begged for his dog. That was his veterinary moment where he really wanted to become a vet because this vet helped him for free. And the full circle moment of it being Hank, the same person that came in, I was like, oh, I just want to help you a couple days a week because I've lost someone and I'm just trying to keep busy. And then realizing that it was him, because it was just like, it felt like a magical moment, but it didn't feel like we're pushing this too over the edge and it's too cheesy. It was like the right amount of cheese, the right amount of goodness, and it was just like a happy moment. And I almost wanted Hank to buy the whole thing and make it that fairy tale happy go lucky ending. But seeing that push through, seeing that aspect of it was honestly just great. Also, the mom and watching her deteriorate and some of her outbursts that she was having, the fact that she would never know her daughter's boyfriend, the love of her life, husband, future children, like that she would never know that stuff. It was so heartbreaking. The dad wanting to move on, and that's such a real thing. Let's talk about that. How when you have an ill family member, they might be the person that you're married to, and it's so real that you've lost that person. The person you fell in love with is no longer there. And you've made your vows, and you, in sickness and in health, and you will be there for them, and you will take care of them, but you still have needs. You still have a longing for love and for someone to love you back. And that person in their illness can't love you back anymore. Like they can't be there for you anymore. And finding that part of yourself where you go, it's okay for me to move on, not stop loving them, not stop taking care of them. But if I need companionship and I need to talk to someone else, go on dates. I'm not necessarily going to try to replace the person that I'm with right now. They're still alive, they're still there. But with a case of dementia, she will never be the same again. With a case of like any sort of illness where you literally lose that person, they're physically alive. You have to grieve that person. It's not as simple as a breakup because the person isn't even out of sight. And it's not as simple as the person just died and you lost them because you don't get to grieve because they're still right in front of you. You just get to watch the person that you loved fade away. You watch the light from their eyes fade and they're no longer reacting the same way that they used to react, laughing the same way that they used to laugh, getting the inside jokes. Like you've lost your person, the person who is a witness to your life. And that is incredibly sad, but we also have to remember those people who are still alive, who are still who are their caretakers. You now have to bathe them, feed them, wipe them, all of the things. And because you love them, you do that and you want to do that for them, but also you're still a person. You still need time to yourself. You still need a breath. And it feels so great when the family has to like come together because there's a point where they're all fighting and they're not really talking to each other. And Samantha is just like, I will put her in a home, even though that's what not what she wanted. If we can't all come together and do what we're supposed to do, like we need to have our schedules aligned. We need to have set out times. We need to work together because if we don't work together, one person taking on all that load by themselves is too much. And then watching them have time shifts, have days off, have a schedule that's set where they can still be with that person, still love that person, still eat, still function, still have their time to just be themselves. And it all is like, it shows you one person cannot take care of an ill person by themselves. It is too much mentally, physically, emotionally. It's just too much. And sometimes people don't understand that. They see the person moving on and they're like, oh, well, you just lost that person. That person's been passed away for 5 seconds and you're already moving on. And they may not have seen the lead up to it. They may not have seen the deterioration. And even if it was quick, it's like you don't know what's going on in that person's heart. You don't know what's going on with them. And sometimes people heal in different ways. People take different amounts of time to heal and grow, and sometimes it can last a long time. Sometimes at the same time, you could be loving somebody new and still grieving somebody. It doesn't all have to be so black and white. So I thought that this was such a beautiful book, and I guess that answers my question of is this a physical copy by? Definitely. I would definitely recommend buying the physical copy. I unfortunately didn't have the physical copy, but this was my first time immersive reading. So I was able to read it on my Kindle and listen to it on Kindle as well. But, well, slash Audible. Once you have bought it on Audible, I think it connects and you can then read it either place. So I just did that on my iPad. And I would say that with immersive reading, it's a financial strain because you have to buy it twice. You have to pay for the person who is recording and watching TikToks and watching people do audiobooks and record and all of that stuff. It is definitely entertaining and it is definitely a lot of work. And you can see what goes into it and how stressful and strenuous it is to be an audiobook narrator. So all power to them that audiobooks cost that amount of money, but at the same time you have to buy the audiobook and you either have to buy a physical copy or you have to buy the ebook. And I know people keep trying to find ways around that where they can get it for free or get it for less money, but the authors deserve the money, especially if it's a good book. They deserve their money, even if it's not a good book. Still feel like if they deserve their money because they took their time to write that book, to have those ideas and put it down on paper, go through the editing process and go through paying for publishing, starting out and having nothing and really struggling. So I do believe that if you have the financial means, then immersive reading can really work. So for somebody like me who I struggle to pay attention sometimes when an audiobook is being played. So I like to have something to do with my hands or to see something. So often I will play a game while I'm listening to the audiobook, but then that tires out my eyes. So with this, I also found that when I wanted to cook or when I wanted to use the bathroom or when I wanted to drive, I could still listen to the book and have like the iPad on the chair or like wherever. And it would still be because with the Kindle, when you have it connected, it like highlights the words. So it keeps going and it keeps turning the pages for you. So when I wanted to then go back to the immersive reading of looking at it and listening to it at the same time, I didn't have to stop. I could see exactly where it was that it left off and just keep reading that way. When I wanted to read and listen at the same time, it was easy because I think I put it to 1.75, either 1.5 or 1.75 speed to listen, so it will link up with how fast I read visually. So listening, and I linked it up where it didn't feel slow with my eyes following it because on one it literally just felt like if I was going and the book says, and I was just like, no, this is going to take too long and it's boring. But having it sped up and following it with my eyes was a good way to read it. With this book specifically, at first it took a bit getting used to the different voices because it is a tandem read where the male is voiced by a male actor and the female is voiced by a female actor. And so not, but when he's voicing his chapters, she will say her line and then he'll say everything else. However, if there's a male in her chapter, she'll like make a male voice and the only person that their voice is inserted is his. And that took a slight getting used to because it was just like listening to them fake female or fake male accents when you already have a man or already have a woman in being inserted in. It was kind of weird. It was just like uh, that's odd. Why not get multiple people? But that would obviously cost money on their part. But it was like, why not get multiple people or even her to just do a different female voice, pitch her voice slightly differently for the other females in the book. But then I understood also that you wouldn't want to confuse people to think that she was speaking when it wasn't her. That's why I said pitch voice. I don't know. But it was a bit weird. I eventually got used to it. And because of the type of book it was, multiple characters outside of the two of them didn't strongly have different, a lot of lines to have like a huge voice in the book. So I think it was okay. I will try immersive reading with a book that only has one voice actor and see if I like it that way. I do like listening to audiobooks sometimes, and I do like reading. I love physical books, but I wasn't able to get the physical copy of this one, but I like both. I don't like reading on my iPad just because I like to feel the pages turn. I don't like it. I would prefer to turn pages, but it's easier for me most of the time to read a ebook. Also, it wastes less paper. Last trees die. That's all on my opinion of Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. I would say it was a 5 out of 5 read. The themes were love, trauma, healing, grief, feelings, bittersweet, happy, warm and fuzzy, sad. Oh, yeah. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Fiction and Feelings. Stay tuned for next week's episode. I think next week's episode will be a read with me, or it might be a film review. I don't know yet. We'll see. But stay tuned for next week's episode. Thanks so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Bye!